we're very glad to have you here, Mr. Secretary. I asked him how I should introduce him. You've got his bio here, so you know who he is and why and what he's done in about 7 or 8 lines. So I said, what should I say about you other than what's in the bio, which everybody can read? And he said, nothing. He said, I'm just a civil servant. Well, I don't believe he's just a civil servant. I believe he's much more than that. And he's shepherding this process through, I hope. And perhaps that's what the questions will be at the end is, what is he doing to shepherd it through, given all the pitfalls that probably lie along the way? But in the meantime, I asked him how he was going to present this, and he's going to go through the history of these, which we got a little bit of this morning, but I think the Secretary will have a good perspective on that. And so, I'm already taking too much time to introduce you, Mr. Secretary. Please, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, sir.
It's all yours.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to speak on the subject of immense importance at this august meeting of the distinguished scholars. And when I was being introduced, I was thinking that just a few minutes before coming here, I met Dr. Ishrat outside. And I asked him for a copy of his presentation. And the concluding para, I read, to conclude, the future growth, disruption, or slow death of India-Pakistan trade will depend whether a proactive, sensible system is put in place to manage the relations. So far, so good. The usual South Asian bureaucracy-driven approach that is reactive, slow, and ponderous will sooner or later act as the kiss of death. I'm wondering what I'm doing here.
All in the first category, not the second.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the impediments in Pakistan-India trade have been the focus of intense attention for a long time. Although a number of experts and institutions like the World Bank have supported the liberalization of trade between the two countries, fears and apprehension, as well as the adversarial bilateral relationships between the countries have not allowed them to move forward in this particular domain. As is the case in most parts of the world, trade and politics intermingle also in the subcontinent. Why this thaw in relationship and not before may be a valid question playing on the minds of the people following the trajectory of trade relations between the two countries. In order to fully understand what has happened over the last 1 year, it may be useful to look at the historical perspective right from the time that the two countries became independent. As we know, after the end of World War II, the British colonial government partitioned the dominion of India into independent countries of Pakistan and India in August 1947. The General Agreement on Tariff and Trade was negotiated almost at the same time when the partition led to the creation of Pakistan. The founding members of GATT, keeping in view the fact that the subcontinent was more or less a single economy, allowed special dispensation for the two countries under Article 24, paragraph 11 of GATT 1947. If they wanted, they could create a common trading area or a tariff union. GATT was signed by 23 countries, including Pakistan and India, on 23rd October 1947. India ratified GATT on July 8, 1948, and Pakistan followed suit on July 30th, 1948. Ladies and gentlemen, the founding fathers of both the countries did not envisage adversarial relations between the two countries. Mr. M.A. Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan, had a very positive vision for India-Pakistan relationships. He believed the two states would coexist in peace and harmony like United States and Canada. Unfortunately, even before the two countries attained independence, problems started to bedevil relationship between them. It started with a cross-border migration from both sides. Large number of Hindus and Sikhs living in what is now Pakistan and Muslims in what is now India were forced to cross-border migration amidst a frenzy of communal violence. Over 1 million of the 14.5 million who were forced to move in either direction tragically lost their lives. In addition to bloodshed on the unprecedented scale for the region, there was controversial annexation of princely states. In particular, the dispute over Jammu and Kashmir created deep suspicion, and over the years was the single most important issue that significantly contributed to the outbreak of hostilities between the two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we must note here that while all this was going on, the war in Kashmir started in October 1947 and ended on December 48. While all this was going on, the political leadership of the time kept trade and economic issues separate from politics. In 1948-49, Pakistan's export to India accounted for 56% of its total exports, while 32% of Pakistan's import came from India. The two countries were trading normally during this turbulent period. India was Pakistan's largest trading partner, and this continued to be the case till 1955-56. Between 1948 and 65, Pakistan and India used a number of land routes for bilateral trade. These included 8 customs stations in the Punjab province, 3 custom checkposts in Sindh, and Pakistan and India even signed a bilateral agreement on 22nd December 1957 to facilitate border trade, invoking Article 24, paragraph 3A of GATT for the first and for the last time. Similarly, Pakistan and India signed a number of agreements to facilitate land route trade. The two countries signed the first Pakistan-Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement on May 29, 1958 at Kabul, which allowed, and not many people know about it, transit of goods from India via Lahore border to Kabul. Pakistan also signed a transit trade agreement with Nepal in January 62, which allowed transit of goods via territory of then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. From 47 to 65, Pakistan and India entered into 14 bilateral agreements related to trade facilitation. These agreements covered avoidance of double taxation, trade in goods, food item, trade facilitation, border dispute resolutions, border trade, air services, and banking. The spirit of pragmatism was so strong at the time that it led to an arrangement under which Pakistan exported grain from Sindh province to deficit provinces of India, and in turn, India exported flour to then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. Both Pakistan and India had bank branches in each other's countries. In 1965, there were 9 branches of 6 Indian banks operating in Pakistan. And Pakistan's Habib Bank had 1 branch in Mumbai. But all this changed abruptly. The unresolved Kashmir dispute came into play. In 1965, war broke out between the two countries. This time, trade and economic relationship became casualties of war. On the fateful morning of 6 September 1965, custom officers at Wagah Post near Lahore became the first civilian prisoners of war, and banks in both countries were seized as enemy properties. Ladies and gentlemen, from 1965 onwards, there was no trade. And after 1971 war, which resulted in dismemberment of Pakistan, Shimla Agreement was signed between the two countries in 1972. Under this agreement, trade resumed on a limited scale. And in 1974, both countries worked on positive list, started with 4 items on each side. This list has expanded incrementally over a period of time. This continued till 1995, when on signing WTO agreement, India unilaterally discontinued its positive list for trade in goods with Pakistan. Pakistan, however, at that time was neither prepared to react nor in a position to reciprocate. Lobbies in Pakistan linked settlement of Kashmir dispute to complete normalization of trade with India. Immediately thereafter, Pakistani private sector tried to export items to India which were previously prohibited. Now, this is very important for you to understand what happened. India was obviously not pleased about the lack of reciprocity on the part of Pakistan. Pakistani exporters who tried to export without proper study of India's import regime burnt their fingers. They encountered India's non-tariff barriers. The result was obviously not good. It created a strong negative perceptions in the mind of our exporter, who to this day generally believe that India does not welcome exports from Pakistan. Later in 1998, nuclear tests were conducted by India and Pakistan followed suit. The political relationship between the two countries became tense. The war in Kargil the following year further soured already frayed political relationship. Fortunately, however, the serious friction in the political relationships did not disrupt trade relationship in a significant manner. During 2002, Pakistan's private sector got another jolt when Pakistan's exporters who were victims of war against terror were given a concessionary package by the EU. India promptly filed a case in the WTO. At this stage, I would like to take a minute to explain why Pakistan's exporters suffered when Pakistan became a partner in the war on terror. Immediately after the sad day of 9/11, Pakistan came in the war zone. And even before the first shell was fired by the American warships assembled in the Arabian Sea, the cost of Pakistan's exports went up because of increase in insurance premium. Buyers were demanding airlifting of samples because they were not coming themselves, and inventories in the third countries. I've seen emails that if you want to continue to do business with us, have such and such inventory ready, preferably in Dubai. Otherwise, we will think that you will not be able to supply us the goods in time, and we are going to discontinue our relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, I also came across many emails from American buyers, from European Union buyers, that please relocate your production somewhere outside Pakistan, otherwise we are not going to do business with you. Pakistan's textile industry, which was graduating into value added, got the most severe jolt because the designers who would come and sit in the factories for color matching and designing, they would not come because of the disconnect between the buyers and the suppliers. So, under these circumstances, it was a great news for the Pakistani exporters when they got this facility from European Union. It was a drug-related facility, and India promptly filed a case in the WTO against that. This hostile act further strengthened Pakistan's private sector perception of India as the enemy. And in January 2004, governments of India and Pakistan announced the start of composite dialogue. From February 2004, trade relations were one of the areas in focus. And why I have mentioned this filing of the case in WTO against Pakistan and India, because this was the time when this composite dialogue was started. The first round was held in 2004, the second round was in August 2005, third round in 2006, and fourth round in 2007 August. These rounds were not very productive. There was only incremental progress. Let me say this very clearly, that Pakistani exporters and business people did not have any appetite for having a normal trading relationship with India. When in January 2011, I was told by our Foreign Secretary that trade has been included as a track in the resumed composite dialogue, I studied the minutes of these 4 rounds to my surprise, the minutes did not make any mention of normalization of trade relationship or grant of MFN in trade of goods. The Indian side had only asked for inclusion of additional items in the positive list of Pakistan in the rounds held in the 3 years period. Probably they had reconciled to the fact that Pakistan-India trade is not going to get normalized anytime soon. After the unfortunate terrorist attack in Mumbai on 26th November 2008, the composite dialogue process was suspended. At the time of resumption of composite dialogue process in 2011, the respective position of the two countries was that India saw the positive list arrangement for imports from India by Pakistan and non-implementation of SEFTA obligations as barrier to trade, while private sector in Pakistan thought that India was not allowing them a level playing field despite abolition of positive list due to the NTBs. Also, a report from India was widely quoted in Pakistan to show insincerity of India. In December 2007, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, ICRIER, commissioned a two-part study, and the report, which was published by, where is Dr. Nisha? By Dr. Nisha Taneja. I keep on quoting from her report all the time. The first part, dealing with trade opportunities between India and Pakistan, were funded by Ratan Tata Trust, and the second on non-tariff barriers was funded by India's Ministry of Commerce. The study was conducted by, as I mentioned, Dr. Nisha Taneja. She is the honorable lady, and I really respect her after going through her report. The finding of the report on NTBs brought out an astonishing fact. Indian importers who had experience of importing from Pakistan were reluctant to be interviewed even. They told the compiler of the report that they were subjected to surveillance by Indian security agencies if they were trading with Pakistan. Similarly, they complained that the goods imported by them are subjected to multiple checks in the name of security screening. After going through the report, I got the impression that the Ministry of Commerce in India was not aware of the conduct of the security agencies. Otherwise, it would not have commissioned and funded such a study. However, this report was in public domain and came to the notice of Pakistani intelligentsia as well as exporters. This further reinforced the impression in the minds of Pakistan's exporter that India would not allow unhindered access to their market. When I mentioned the content of this report to Indian delegation when they came to Pakistan to restart the composite dialogue in 2011, they responded by saying that the role of their security agencies was justified after the Mumbai attacks. However, the fact is that Mumbai attacks took place in 2008, while this report was published in 2007. Another adverse development was in the offing, and that was the Indian opposition to the EU package. Pakistan's economy suffered a severe jolt when heavy floods, described by UN Secretary General as tsunami in slow motion, damaged crops and infrastructure in addition to loss of human lives. The EU promptly announced a limited package to help Pakistan cope with economic consequences of this tragedy. The package had to go to WTO for a waiver. The meeting of WTO Council for Trade in Goods, CTG, for discussing the package was held on 29th November 2010. I was in Geneva on 28th November, before the package was due for discussion. I specially requested a meeting with Mr. Das Gupta, India's ambassador and permanent representative to the WTO at that time. I spent an hour in his office and tried to explain that the package had no commercial consequence for India. If India is seen to be opposing this package, it would further reinforce the negative perception in the minds of Pakistani traders. He appreciated the points I was making, but when the package came up for discussion in CTG, India promptly opposed it along with some other countries. Pakistan and India play cricket, ladies and gentlemen, with a passion. And it so happened that the World Cup semi-final match was played at Mohali, India on 30th of March 2011. The Indian Prime Minister invited his Pakistani counterpart to watch the match. The Indian side agreed to Pakistan's request regarding withdrawal of its objection to the grant of the WTO waiver. At least this was what the Prime Minister told me on returning from India. On return, Prime Minister of Pakistan informed the private sector also that the Indian Prime Minister has accepted his request. It was appreciated by all. Ladies and gentlemen, after resumption of the composite dialogue, this was immediately after this Mohali match. The fifth round of Pakistan-India Commerce Secretary level took place on 27th and 28th April 2011 at Islamabad. Indian Commerce Secretary Mr. Rahul Khullar met me for the first time. And those who understand Punjabi, he is a Punjabi and a very good human being, and I'm also a Punjabi. So he asked me, "Karna ki hai?" which translated into English means, what are we going to do? So I told him that I think that we can do a lot. He was pleased to know that even before the talks had started, now this is important, he was extremely pleased to know that even before the talks had started, Ministry of Commerce in Pakistan had started a consultation process with the Chambers of Commerce and Industry and all trade associations to switch over from positive list to the negative list. This circular was sent by me in March or early April to all trade associations and chambers that if we move from positive list to negative list with India, what is going to be your reaction? What do you want included in the negative list and why? And give your justification in the attached pro forma. The joint statement issued at the end of the two-day meeting set up a working group dedicated to address and resolve sector-specific barriers to trade. It was decided that Pakistan would remove its restriction on trade by land route as soon as the infrastructure at Wagah was ready. The scope of cooperation was expanded to include electricity, petroleum, BT cotton, seeds, banking, visa, railways, and integration of chambers. More importantly, it was mentioned in the joint statement, and I still remember the look of astonishment on the face of Indian delegation when we mentioned that I dictated it myself that Pakistani side agrees that grant of MFN status to India would help in increasing the bilateral trade. What I was stating was something which was very obvious, that MFN status would help in expanding the trade. The normalization process was still not moving forward as India did not withdraw its objection to EU package and WTO. And in July 2011, I was really depressed when EU informed Pakistan's mission in Brussels that concessionary package would not be taken again to WTO because it has failed twice unless India gives its approval. So it was almost dead at that time. It created widespread dismay in Pakistan business circles, and the president of Pakistan's Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry wrote to his counterpart organization in India to protest this move with the Indian government. And the copy of the letter was endorsed to not only the Commerce Minister, the Commerce Secretary, but also to the Prime Minister of India. This was written by Senator Ghulam Ali, who was heading at that time the Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce. This is, Dr. Saab, the role of the private sector when they come into play. Meanwhile, a helpful development was that Mr. Anand Sharma, Minister of Commerce and Industry of India, who has a clear vision regarding trade normalization with Pakistan, also assumed the charge of Textile Minister on 12th July 2011. Probably it would not have been possible for the Indian government to do what Mr. Anand Sharma did because it was a coalition government and DMK member was holding the textile portfolio with Mr. Maran. But Mr. Maran had to resign because of some charges against him, and the happy development was that Mr. Anand Sharma became Minister for Textile on. He invited Pakistan's Commerce Minister from 26th, and we visited along with a delegation of 80 strong businessmen from 26th to 30th September 2011. This was the first visit by the Commerce Minister of Pakistan to India in 35 years. The major outcome of this visit was the political ownership of the trade normalization process, and India unilaterally offered not to oppose EU package in WTO. It was a very, very helpful development. The two ministers also agreed for full normalization of trade relationships and dismantling of anti-BEs and full implementation of obligations under SAARC Agreement on South Asia Free Trade Area. This visit created a conducive environment for Pakistan to move forward. Ministry of Commerce arranged a detailed briefing for the cabinet. And on 2nd of November 2011, after a grueling 3.5 hours presentation and question and answer, Pakistan cabinet endorsed the process of trade normalization, backed the Ministry of Commerce for whatever it was doing, and they ordered Ministry of Commerce to further negotiate with India, which may result to trade normalization, which may result in the trade on MFN basis. This was a great news for India-Pakistan relationship. I recall Anand Sharma telephoned his counterpart immediately, and Mr. Rahul Khullar gave me a ring in the morning when I was brushing my teeth, and I accepted the compliments that he paid me. The Secretary Commerce of the two countries met on 14th and 15th of November 2011 in India. The sequencing of trade normalization was chalked out, and it was decided that following move to negative list in the first stage by February 2012, the negative list will ultimately be phased out by the end of 2012. To allay the fears of Pakistani exporters, interactive sessions were arranged between Indian import regulators, the customs and the other agencies, and the BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. The first one was held in New Delhi on 29th of September 2011, and Indian import regulators also visited Lahore and Karachi on 25th and 27th of January 2012. These were very well-attended meetings. Indian regulators were on the other one hand, and Pakistani traders were on the other, and it continued for almost like hours. They were asking questions to the Indians, and I must pay credit to the Indian side. They very patiently explained the import regulations that India has and how to overcome that. As has been agreed earlier, the negative list was finalized. One of Pakistan's premier business educational institutes, the Institute of Business Administration, IBA, was kind enough to work with Ministry of Commerce. And Dr. Ishrat Hussain, I must thank him. He took this onerous task with a very happy dispensation. He said this is something which is close to his heart. He would like to help, and help he did. And the IBA experts, with their professional and technical knowledge, completed the task despite the time constraints. 6th SEFTA ministerial meeting was to be held in February 2012, and we invited Indian Commerce Minister to come before the meeting and inaugurate a Made in India exhibition at Lahore. So he did that. Pakistan's Commerce Minister received him at Wagah Atari Gate. It was a very good meeting, and unfortunately, on 14th of February, the case came up to Cabinet of Pakistan for switching from positive list to negative list. An Indian delegation was in Karachi at that time, and they were eagerly awaiting the outcome, and it was unfortunate that Pakistan Cabinet, after great deal of, not really great deal of discussion, after opposition from some ministries, postponed that. And Dr. Ishrat Hussain was there in the cabinet meeting, and we were all disappointed that the cabinet had postponed the consideration because of the opposition from other ministries. And we could not, on this Valentine Day, give the appropriate gift of additional market access to Anand Sharma and his delegation. They were really disappointed. However, the two ministers agreed that when Pakistan notifies its negative list, whenever that happens, India would reduce its sensitive list under SEFTA. Now, sensitive list is the no-go area for trade concessionary arrangement. Under SAFTA, the tariff are to be reduced over a period of time, and by 2013, 1st January, the peak tariff would be 5%, barring the goods which are listed on the sensitive list. So India said that Pakistan had reduced the list by 20%, and they said we will reduce it by 30% once you move from positive list to the negative list. Also, to allay the apprehension of Pakistani exporters regarding Indian NTBs, 3 facilitation agreements were initialed. These included custom cooperation, redressal of grievances, and mutual recognition agreement, limited MRA. Pakistan had agreed in November 2011 to take the case to the cabinet in February. On 29th of February 2012, the cabinet approved switchover from positive list to negative list. Pakistan's credibility was restored. The cabinet also approved a possible phase out of the negative list by December 2012. Pakistan cabinet normally meets on Wednesdays. Fortunately, this was to happen in a leap year, and that too on a Wednesday. That fell on February 29. This is the latest position, ladies and gentlemen. There is a political consensus now amongst major political parties on trade normalization with India. The Special Committee of National Assembly on Kashmir, which draws strength from both houses of the parliament, the Standing Committee of the National Assembly, and the Standing Committee on Senate have called me a number of times. And I have defended this trade normalization with India in these 3 committees repeatedly and for very long hours. But I'm happy to tell you that all these 3 committees have not opposed the trade normalization process, especially the Kashmir Committee, which is emotive about the issue of Kashmir. But recently, I was there in Atari when this new integrated checkpost was opened by Mr. Chidambaram, who is the Indian Home Minister, and Mr. Anand Sharma, the Commerce Minister of India, was also there. The Commerce Secretary was also there. And Chief Minister of Punjab had also invited the Chief Minister, Indian Punjab, had invited the Chief Minister of Pakistani Punjab to be present on the occasion. And they had arranged a big public meeting on which Mr. Anand Sharma also spoke, Mr. Makhdoom Amin Fahim, the Commerce Minister of Pakistan, also spoke. But the Chief Minister of Pakistani Punjab came out talking about EU in Pakistan-India relationship. They said that if EU can do it, they can combine together in Europe. Why can't South Asia become an EU of future? So that was a very helpful sign. And mind you, the Chief Minister of Punjab belongs to the main opposition party in Pakistan. But ladies and gentlemen, despite this phenomenal progress, there are areas of concern. Despite the progress that has been made so far, there are still fears of India's economic dominance in the minds of the private sector and the political leaders. India has a huge balance in its favor in trade with all other SAARC countries except Bhutan. But Bhutan's trade is very small. And it is constant fear in the minds of opinion makers in Pakistan that owing to large industrial base and a restrictive import regime, trade balance of Pakistan with India will further deteriorate. This is going to happen. I know that. There are suspicions about India's sincerity also to make SAFTA work. Now, SAFTA is the South Asia Free Trade Area. India has 2 separate sensitive lists, which is the no-go area for trade concession. The Indian sensitive list for LDCs and non-LDCs is different, whereas they have allowed Bangladesh to export duty-free everything except few items to India and other countries. The only non-LDC is Pakistan and Sri Lanka. With Sri Lanka, they have a FTA, so the list becomes almost Pakistan-specific, and that comprises of 860 items. Also, there is apprehension in the mind of the Pakistani traders that India will find ways to nullify the effectiveness of these 3 trade facilitation agreements. Also, to make trade normalization process sustainable, we think, and I sincerely hope, that simultaneous progress is made on other tracks of the composite dialogue. This is highly desirable, because this I told everybody when Indian Commerce Minister was there, and I said that it would be something which would be artificial without a solid foundation if the political disputes between the 2 countries are not resolved. And they are easy to resolve. Siachen is a stupid war which is going on for a very long time. And I think it is easily resolvable. Similarly, the issue of Sar Creek is easily resolvable, even if the Kashmir, takes a longer time. But still, there needs to be sufficient progress on other tracks rather than the trade track only. The move to normalize trade relationship with India is a courageous decision by the government of Pakistan. Reversal of this process will have serious implications, not only for the 2 countries, but the region also. Because of its dominant economic position, India needs to be large-hearted and more accommodating for its neighbors. Giving trade concession to the smaller neighbors would not hurt it economically. At this moment in time, Pakistan's export to India are 1/6 of their exports to Pakistan. I know that within 2 years of the trade normalization, India's exports would increase by many folds, because there is trade taking place through Dubai. And this is going to have its implication for public perception of the Indian dominance of Pakistan's economy. India has to earn goodwill of its neighbor. It will not hurt it. It will only, help it integrate the region of South Asia. Pakistan's investment regime does not make any restrictions for India, but India's investment regime debars Pakistan, and there are positive moves that India is removing those restrictions. Ladies and gentlemen, there are lobbies in Pakistan which believe that due to India's large industrial base and economies of scale, Pakistan's market will be swamped with Indian products and will damage Pakistan industry. The impression that trade liberalization with India is creating unemployment in Pakistan must be avoided at all costs in order to prevent a political and social backlash and to make the process sustainable. Although the process between the 2 countries is bilateral, the entire world has a stake in peace in South Asia. London Economist, through a lead article and cover story in 19th May issue in 2011, asked the world to contribute to normalization of relationship between the 2 nuclear-armed countries. Japan, I visited them recently, and I told them that they are in a unique position to help this process due to its dominance in the auto sector of Pakistan and India. As Honda, Suzuki, and Toyota are present in both countries, it can persuade its companies in Pakistan not to import everything from India, but also to source parts from sister companies in Pakistan. For example, Pakistan can import Suzuki CKDs from India, and while Pakistan makes Corollas, which larger in number than even in Japan and India, they can be exported to India. Slowly and gradually, ladies and gentlemen, the attitude of the Pakistani business community is changing regarding trade with India. We need to nurture this process to make trade normalization between the 2 countries irreversible. In 2011 and 2012, Dr. Ishrat would bear me out that I visited all the major chambers and trade associations repeatedly to explain the normalization process to the private sector. Ministry of Commerce, Pakistan, has now engaged the services of experts. Maybe some of you know Dr. Manzoor, who was here as a speaker last year, or maybe year before last. He was Pakistan's former ambassador to WTO, along with a team of others, to conduct a series of seminars from 3rd to 26th April 2012 in all major cities of Pakistan to educate the private sector about India's import regime and the scope of exports to India market. We have also arranged an exhibition titled Lifestyle Pakistan India from 12th to 15th April 2012. Pakistan Commerce Minister was present in India during this exhibition along with a trade mission of more than 100 businessmen. I have personally appeared in numerous talk shows on television in Pakistan and faced tough questions to explain the need for this change. Despite all these efforts, still there are many in Pakistan's private sector who remain unconvinced and deeply apprehensive about doing business with India. In the end, I would like to speak about generally held belief about the role of Pakistan's security establishment. Most people think, this is the first question that I'm asked, is army on board? Most people think that the security establishment is against normalization of trade relationship with India. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's security agencies have never interfered with imports from India. This has been confirmed by Dr. Taneja in a report, and I quote from her report. The identification of trading firms was relatively simpler in the survey conducted in Pakistan than in India. Unlike the Indian survey, none of the traders denied trading with India, and discussions were held in a free and open manner. In addition, several members of the FPCCI, that is the Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and the chambers interested in trading with India volunteered to give answer. This is further validated by the fact that Pakistan's trade relationship with India were on MFN basis during the 1947 to 1965. And in 1958, Pakistani civilian government was toppled by General Ayub Khan, but his military government did not change the trading relationship with India. Despite all the differences, the trading continued, and even the goods were passing, Indian goods were going to Kabul via Pakistan. The government at least never had any objection. The military had no objection. Bilateral trade was thriving in this. As Secretary of Commerce, I can say with all honesty that during this normalization process, no one from the security establishment has ever contacted me to even discuss this issue. This may be a surprise to you, but this is the commonly held belief that Pakistan security establishment is against trading with India. I want to tell you very frankly, very honestly, that this is not the case. At least if it is, I'm not aware of that. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us have their own perceptions. We generally tend to underestimate the role of the private sector in shaping public opinion. When the private sector felt that India was not sincere in establishing business relationship with Pakistan, there was little progress. When the perception began to change, especially when India withdrew its opposition to WTO about the EU package, we covered a lot of ground within a short period. The essence of the argument is that the private sector is and will remain, sir, the main driver of business relationship between the two countries, something that has now been realized by both sides. I only hope that the US administration will learn lessons from this experience. The Reconstruction Opportunity Zones program, which has been on the drawing board for the last number of years, remains unimplemented. The inability of the US to move forward with this program has created serious misgivings about the private sector of Pakistan. Its early implementation should be a key policy initiative to support our joint efforts to build bridges of understanding between our people. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this, that during 1960s, Pakistan's second five-year plan enabled its economy to grow at a fast pace. This was the time when Indian economy was famously called to grow with the Hindu rate of growth. Some of you may know that the World Bank sponsored a delegation from South Korea to study the growth model of Pakistan in 1962. Pakistan's economy at that time was thriving in a rather peaceful region. It was regionally well connected after 1965 war, and especially after the invasion of Afghanistan by Soviet Union in 1979, everything has changed. Now our government this year has declared 2012 as the year of regional trade and economic connectivity. We hope that as situation in Afghanistan will stabilize, it will open up new opportunities for Pakistan and maybe India as well for trading with Central Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, the distance of Kashgar, the capital of Xinjiang province of China, from Karachi port in the Arabian Sea is only 1,300 miles. And this is half the distance between Kashgar and the eastern coast of China. That is Shanghai port. Pakistan, it makes economic sense for export and imports from Kashgar to be routed through Karachi. Pakistan has an all-weather road link with China, which has been slightly disrupted due to the earthquake man-made lake in Atabad region of Pakistan. However, this is being taken care of as an alternate route is being constructed to skirt around the lake. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan is an open economy. Pakistan does not places any restriction on foreign investment, but this open economy has not been able to attract investment because of the lack of peace in the region and the security concerns, and also what is happening in the countries which border Pakistan. We hope that Iran, which is now under UN sanction, the situation would be resolved sooner or later. Pakistan trade with India is expected to gain momentum. This is my sincere wish, especially if there is movement on other bilateral issues holding up improvement in political relationship. If this happens, the stage will be set for a well-integrated CEFTA region, which would in turn economically and commercially integrate with the neighbor ASEAN region. This is my vision, and this is my hope. For Pakistan, this will be finally, will be the time to finally take advantage of its geo-commercial location rather than suffering from it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. I was going to get up and wave a little flag at you several times, but your talk was so interesting that
Sorry, it took longer.
I went unconscious, so to speak. We've got very little time left. Do you want to permit any questions?
Yeah, we got started a little bit late, and
Yeah.
this was an important address.
It is indeed. So why don't we have 10 minutes of questions? And I will actually forego the question I was going to ask because I'd like to get you guys involved, and not Dennis Cooks, who always has his hand up first. Who else has a hand up? And I don't see very well because this darn light's in my eyes. There's a lady in the far back, far right there. Where are the microphones? Please wait until you get a microphone. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Lois Tett, a freelance writer and also evangelist of empowerment with majority and women-owned businesses. And the reason why I say that, my question is this. From what I've gained so far from listening to all of you, is that the two countries, Pakistan and India, have a 15-hour power blackout. Is that true? Okay. With that, there is an invention. The Germans and the Chinese met here about a couple of years ago about coal. I understand that Pakistan is one of the largest reserves in the world of coal. However, they thought it was USA. They didn't mention Pakistan at all. There's an invention that makes coal into fuel, electric and energy, gas. We need to talk. That convention can solidify. I think being without power 15 hours a day must cost something.
It does. It causes me to get nervous about the length of your question, among other things.
The question is over.
Would you mind?
Wouldn't there be a possibility of bringing them together closely if we could solve this problem for both countries?
Mr. Secretary, it's your turn.
Should I have to go?
It should be on.
Thank you for the question. I think if we can put our act together and integrate the South Asia as an economic region, there is great scope. I mean, at this moment in time, India has promised to give 500 megawatts of electricity to Pakistan, which is produced in Himachal province. And about the Thar coal, which has large reservoirs in coal in Pakistan, there is already some movement in setting up a power plant to produce electricity from there, and which would ultimately, most probably, can be exported to India also, in that region. So you are absolutely right about that. But hopefully we will have that situation in the not too distant future.
Question way at the back.
John McCormick with the Energy Policy Center. Mr. Secretary, does Pakistan see a role for the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, as probably accelerating Pakistan's opportunities for export through South Asia and beyond?
Well, at this moment in time, there is nothing on the drawing board. But obviously, China is a major trading partner of India, and China is also a major trading partner of Pakistan. The opportunities are immense. Pakistan has the two most fastest developing economies on its borders. And hopefully, through all these arrangements, which would be helpful in increasing trade between the two countries and also the joint ventures. But there is nothing concrete on the table regarding this.
Nisha has a question. Your old friend.
Wait till we get a
I
microphone.
understand that now the concern is on para-tariffs. What is the real concern on para-tariffs? And what are the issues that you think need to be addressed? That's my next research paper.
Okay. The thing is that Indian Commerce Secretary is coming over to Pakistan along with the delegation, probably in the month of May. And if it's not possible in the month of May, then probably sometime later. We intend to hold an in-depth discussion with the Indian side about all such issues. We would involve our private sector. We have started the consultation process. Dr. Manzoor, who is going from one city to another to address all the chambers, he is asking questions about the para-tariff, non-tariff barriers, which they think that Indian import regulations has. And he would give me a paper, and then we would make a presentation to the Indian side, and hopefully the issues would be resolved.
More questions? I can't see any hands. Do I have to call on Dennis? Okay, Dennis. Wait a minute, the microphone is coming.
Hi. Bill's friend Dennis. A question that's a little bit outside of your area, but I assume you'd be aware of this. What are the prospects for increased air links between India and Pakistan? Because that surely now is a problem in terms of restricting back and forth of businessmen.
Thank you very much for this question, because this is very much our concern, because there is a disconnect between India and Pakistan business people. And this disconnect is huge. For example, if you are a trader in Pakistan, let's talk from Pakistani perspective. And if you want to go to India and you want to obtain a visa to look at Indian markets, you will obviously go to the Indian High Commission's website and download the forms. It wants you to state when was the LC opened when you traded with India. So if the LC is already open, then there is no need really to go. It is for the looking at the prospect that you need to go and meet with the people. So at this moment in time, the restrictive visa regime and the very restrictive air links, and I think these are the two major non-tariff barriers which are experienced by the businessmen. And the visa regime is such that both countries require the businessmen to report to the nearest police station within 24 hours of their arrival. And they give visas for restrictive restrictive visa in the sense that you can only go to 3 countries. So if somebody, 3 cities, sorry, and if they go to Delhi, Gurgaon, which is adjacent to Delhi, if they go there, then they're apprehensive that they would be hauled up. So I think all these issues need to be addressed. When Indian Commerce Minister came, he brought along with him some of the airline operators also. And I had a good discussion with the owner of the Jet Air, which is doing a thriving business in Pakistan, in India. And they are very keen on opening up of the airlinks. At this moment in time, only PIA of Pakistan is operating to Delhi and to Mumbai. But India needs to, operate its flights also. There is no restriction. It is only their own, choice.
There's 2 more questions back here. Let's take them both together. Who's got the microphone? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Singit Sering. India, Pakistan is trying to reduce troops from Siachen Glacier, and I think it should be supported by everyone. And I don't know if it lies within your scope or not, but what are the reasons that Kargil Road has not been opened despite demands by the local people? Are there any restrictions on as far as China or Pakistan's interests are concerned that Kargil Road has not been opened yet, despite there are 5 or 6 other transit and exit routes between different parts of Kashmir? Thank you.
Let's take the second question, which I think was just to your left.
My name is Sadanand Dhume. I'm with the American Enterprise Institute. And my question is about people-to-people ties, which was sort of inspired by your comment about your relations with the Commerce Secretary because you're fellow Punjabis and the, Punjabi chief ministers and so on. So when one speaks of sort of trade between India and Pakistan, Punjab seems to get a lot of attention, rightly so. But I'm curious about whether you see similar ties, particularly between business communities, when it comes to, for example, Gujaratis, because my understanding is that a large chunk of the Karachi Stock Exchange, for example, has been dominated by Gujarati business communities, and of course in India, Gujarat is thriving. So I'm wondering how come this attention is focused so much on Punjab, and is there anything interesting going on the Gujarat side too?
Thank you for both the questions. About the first question, sir, I will plead my ignorance. I even don't know what is the Kargil route and what the implication of your question is. I only know that the Pakistan-China, the Silk Route or Karakram Highway, as it's called, it is blocked because part of the mountain broke loose and restricted the flow of Indus. And Indus made a huge lake which submerged part of the Karakram Highway. That is the problem, and that is being taken care of. About the Kargil Road, I'm not aware what is the issue. Regarding the connectivity between different regions of India and Pakistan, yes, Punjab is an obvious part of India and Pakistan, which has similar language. It is a very heavily populated area. The two Punjabs, it was one Punjab and divided in 1947. So there is a long common border between the two Punjabs. And there are bondage between the two Punjabs. But I think that there is similar kind of arrangement which exists between Mumbai and Karachi. The only thing is that they don't share a border. But once the visa regime is opened, there would be a lot of connectivity between Karachi and Mumbai, and also between Hyderabad and other parts of Pakistan, because the traders from Gujarat came to Pakistan, and they were the first traders in Pakistan, because, as you know, Pakistan was without any industry, without any trade in 1947. It owes it to the Gujarati traders who came, who really launched Pakistan in trade and industry. So we think that over a period of time, there will be a lot of connectivity if we can put our act together and move forward in a reasonable manner.
Mr. Secretary, I don't think we've run out of questions, but we've run out of time.
Thank you.
But we want to say to you, thank you very much for your very, very good presentation, very I think, understandable and with a good historical perspective as well as a good perspective on the potential for the future. So thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would join me in giving the Secretary your appreciation.